After the release, we got defensive coordinator Corey Hetherman. Got any questions for him?
Your first game in Miami, what kind of emotions go through your mind, or is it just pure business for you?
I think just excited to, finally go against a different opponent. And I think just, spring football, fall camp, you go against the same opponent every day and, continue to work on the techniques and the fundamentals and build our guys. And, now we finally get a chance to go against different color jersey. But excited for the opportunity and, excited for our guys to get out there and play fast.
Can you talk about the challenge of preparing for this opponent in particular? It's a new quarterback. It's probably going to be personnel use different than their quarterback last year. Also new receivers, just the challenge of facing these type of differences in game one.
Yeah, I think first game of the year, first couple games every year, it's, what have they done? What wrinkles do they now have built into their offense? Or what is their identity this year? How have they changed? Little tweaks. Personnel-wise, guys graduate with the transfer portal nowadays. Just trying to figure out who they're going to be. That's something early in the game we have to identify, who they're trying to get the ball to, what their strengths are, where they're trying to attack us, and then what they have changed with their style, with their structure, and, what they do offensively. But, I think they've done a great job, watching them last year and, different things they've done, how do they utilize their players and the players they return. They have a lot of really talented players that we're sure they're going to try to get the ball to.
With the new quarterback for Notre Dame making his first career stretches, how important is it for you guys on defense to keep him off balance, try to rattle him, try to get in his head, try to do anything you can to kind of keep him from settling in?
Yeah, I think for us it's always going to be, we got to come out and, for us it's going to be we want to stop the run. Like it's always going to be we got to come out, we got to stop the run, and then we got to try to make the quarterback uncomfortable. Whether it's different pre-snap, post-snap, different players we identify. But, for us, we're going to try to do what we do well. And we're always going to try to make sure, we're going to try to make an offense one-dimensional than to put it in the quarterback's hands.
On that note, with the run game, just Jeremiah Love, what stands out about him? Obviously had a really good year last year. We're going to be some ways, what are you guys going to have to do to try and contain him?
Yeah, the offensive line, the way the tight ends block, the way they do things in the box, and then their backfield in general. I think the guys that played last year, it's Jeremiah Love, very, very talented, runs the ball really well. He's going to make the first guy miss. He runs with power. But that backfield in general, I think, is very deep. And when you watch, like 3 to 4 guys from last year really stick out, how they play when they catch the ball in open space, how they pick up blitzes, how they set up their cuts, how they press the line of scrimmage. I think that's a position that's a huge strength. And I think, interesting to see how they come out and utilize that room in the opener.
It's obviously your first time coaching at UM. You coached in big-time environments before in the Big Ten. How important for a defense is it to feed off the crowd's energy and stuff?
I'm excited about that. Crowd noise, big play on first down or, first play of a series, third down situations. Like I'm real excited about, feeling the crowd behind us and the excitement that, behind Miami football right now. And, we want it to be as loud as it possibly can be out there. So.
How has Notre adjusted to things? How's he just moving around in general in fall camp and just fitting in?
Yeah, he's doing a really good job. I think in general, different guys that we brought in, I think, to get the togetherness of the locker room right now. Like the guys are competing together, they're watching film together, they're constantly working on things. And I think, he's a guy that's come in, the linebacker room took him in right away, the defense took him in. And I think, he's playing really fast in the defense. Some things have changed defensively with scheme, but I think he has a pretty good understanding of the style of play that we have, and I think some of those guys in the room are really pulling up everyone around them, and I'm excited about seeing them play together.
Been a little bit of a whirlwind for you, coming into a new program, new personnel, bringing in more personnel, going through spring practice camp. As you get here now to game week, is there like a state of calm in terms of what you've gotten done and your comfort level with the personnel that you have?
Yeah, I think like spring football was who are we? Early in camp, it's okay, what are we good at? Where are our strengths, where are our weaknesses? And right now, it's you go through a camp and you go through a couple scrimmages and you go through a lot of different practice situations. And, especially with us, we're playing a lot of different guys together. You know, we're rotating our guys, playing different linebackers with different safeties or different D-line groups, and constantly trying to, you know, have different guys compete together and try to figure out the pieces. And, you know, I think right now is the best we've communicated, the fastest we're playing. I think the guys are getting really comfortable working together with each other every single rep. And you know, that's the fun part every year, is finding out what our identity is and who we are. And I think our guys right now are starting to play really fast. We're excited about it.
What are your impressions of O.J. Frederick? I mean, he's one of the few returners from the secondary that's had a lot of turnover. Just your thoughts on him as you've gotten to know him throughout the spring and fall?
Yeah, like watching the film from last year, you know, his coverage ability, how, you know, a guy that's very confident, a guy that plays fast, plays with very good technique, and then, you know, he's still building on that. Like, I'm excited about this year because, like, he had a really good year last year, and now I think he's a better player. You know, I think he constantly is working on his game. He's watching film. He's studying. He's trying to fix his weaknesses and trying to maximize his strengths. And I think, you know, he's a guy that's going to continue to get better all the way through. And I think he's had a really good camp so far. And I'm really excited to see him get going here in the fall.
Have you made a decision, booth or sideline, where you're going to call the game?
We'll keep working on that one. So.
With the quarterbacks, I guess, just how much is there any separation, or how much separation is there between the ones and twos? Like, how confident do you feel in, you know, multiple layers of depth, I guess?
Yeah, we're going to play a lot of guys. You're going to see, whether it's in the front seven or in the back, you're going to see a lot of different guys. You're going to see a lot of different guys in different spots. But I'm very comfortable with our depth, you know, in a lot of our areas. And you'll see, you know, situationally or normal downs, you're going to see different guys in there. And, you know, especially like the corner spot, you've seen a lot of guys step up and make some really big-time plays in camp, handle some different situations, you know, handle their isolated one-on-ones or have good understanding of underneath coverage. And that's a room that's really stepped up so far.
What do you need from Ruben Bain this season? What do you feel like he can, yeah, what all do you think you need from him?
You know, the biggest thing, I just want him to play fast and, you know, not think too much, not try to make too many plays. I think if he just does his job every single play. And, you know, he's a guy that in practice, you don't have to say anything. He shows up every day prepared. He watches the film. He knows the scheme. He understands what his job is, what his technique is, and he plays with high effort every single snap. And that's really what it is. It's, you know, for us on defense, we need all 11 guys to do their job. Every single snap, stay within the scheme, play fast, play with good technique. And he's a guy that does, you know, he attacks every day's practice with exactly that. He comes out, you know, and every once in a while you see a mistake and we'll get it cleaned up, but he's a guy that learns quickly from the mistakes. He's constantly working to get better, whether it's setting the edge or, you know, doing something with a movement or his one-on-one in pass rush or his contained technique. And, you know, he's constantly playing faster and faster, and that's all we need to see is just every play 100 miles an hour. Play with good technique, play with good pad level, and knock the line of scrimmage back.
Do you feel like you have the personnel to be as multiple as you would like?
Yeah, you know, that always depends on, you know, health, opponent, you know, what packages they're in, what their style of play is. And I think, like, we have a lot of good pieces right now that we can move around to handle different things. And, you know, that's one thing where, like, in camp, some of the stuff you have to do is simulated. You may not see that from your offense or from the other side of the ball. So some of that stuff maybe we haven't seen full speed yet or 100 miles an hour yet at us. But I think our guys have adjusted to different things, different looks, different styles. Now they're starting to communicate really well in those different pitchers. And I think we have, you know, like I said, I think our depth, I think we have good depth, which allows us to handle different, you know, whether it's a different personnel grouping, a different style of formation, different style of run scheme, or in the pass game, you know, which I think allows us to have more position flexibility with some guys.
Is game one, coaches often talk about tackling. You find out in game one. How do you view game one tackling in general?
I know last year I think we missed 22 in the first one where I was. So that's been in, you know, it's tackling circuit every day. It's the technique. It's the different styles that we tackle with. You know, we've always taught press the hip, and then we're bite the ball, we're wrap and roll, and we're sweep the ankle. And that's been what we've preached from day one all the way through spring football. But it's hard. You can't live tackle a lot in practice, especially with limited numbers and the way that the rules are. So to us, it's just we want to play fast. We want to press the hip. We want to take the air out. And we're going to try to, go attack. We're going to run through the hip, and we're not going to break down. We're not going to settle, and that's where the swarm is so important. And it's the style that we play where we need 11 hats swarming to the ball no matter what. It could be perimeter screen game. It could be quick game. It could be perimeter run. Just quarterback leaving the pocket. We need to make sure our guys are playing fast and swarming, because especially when you play a team, like we open with, where they're going to make us miss, or we're going to have a missed tackle at some point, or something's going to happen where a guy's going to cut back, and we got to make sure we get 11 hats to the ball every single play. And I feel like week one or whatever week it is, that's always the thing that erases it. It's got to be our how physical we play, and then how fast we swarm to the ball, how fast we run to the ball. That'll erase any mistakes that we have, whether it's a missed tackle or a mental error at any given play.
How do you feel the middle of the interiors come together for you? There were some question marks there.
Yep.
Going into the spring and fall.
Yeah, I think interior right now, I think we're playing really well. We got some guys that are really stout. They move well laterally. They get vertical off the ball. And I think that's been, something in practice. We've knocked the line of scrimmage back a little bit. And then, I think with our ability, our athletic ability and our twitch, I think we got some guys that can move. And, you can get vertical, and the next time you can move. And I think we have a good group of guys that you can rotate in there, which is always the number one thing, like who's the next guy in the game there. And I think, for us, we're still going through right now who are the two guys that are running out the first series. I think we had a couple guys that are pretty deep that we can run out there the second series, the third series, or, if they extend the series, rotate within. And, and then at linebacker also, that's been one of the things, like developing in the weight room this offseason, trying to get a little bit bigger, trying to knock plays back a little bit more. Because like we always feel like you see like the offense going to push the pile. I think that's something we'll see this week, and we got to make sure we're knocking the ball back. We're winning the line of scrimmage, and then when we tackle, we got to make sure we're knocking things backwards. So a 2nd and 8 doesn't become a 2nd and 5, and that's something we've really worked on this preseason camp.
And the young linebackers, you got a couple of good-looking freshmen. Are they ready to play?
Yeah, we got some guys. I think situationally, we have some guys that normal downs I think are ready to go. Play fast, and then I think other guys are more maybe package situations right now, where you might see them on a 3rd down, or you might see them on an off track. But we have guys that are constantly developing. They're constantly, I always feel like a smarter football player is a better football player. And we have guys that are really starting to understand the game a little bit. You can see early in camp it might have been moving fast, and now you can kind of see them settling, getting aligned, knowing where their eyes need to be, understanding what their job is, communicating with the guys around them. And settling in and playing faster and just being more comfortable right now within, a fast tempo style of play. And, there's still little mistakes that we're trying to correct, and that's always part of the process as younger guys learn. But I think as, this week and as the season continues to go, I think you're going to see more guys in different situations playing on the field for us, especially in that linebacker room.
Or third down situational stuff that you guys have done in practice, how does it look to you? And again, what kind of keys getting off the field? What's the messaging that you're giving your guys?
Yeah, I think we've put guys in different situations. I think up front, letting our guys get off the ball a little bit. And then, in the back end, I think some of the different coverages, we really try to mix it up in camp, try to find out where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are, whether it's some zone coverage, dropping different guys or playing some man. And the hardest thing I've learned is trying to defend our offense is a nightmare. So some of those guys over there, trying to defend them in space. But, I think our guys are playing faster. They're understanding the concepts. They're understanding the leverage that they need to play, within the zone or man technique, and where their depths need to be as they drop. And then the one thing I'm, different guys working off the football and winning one-on-ones up front is an area I think we've really improved. And I think whether it's guys from the 2nd level or guys walked up on the line of scrimmage, that's an area where I think we're getting to the quarterback faster in that area. That's one of those things going against a veteran offensive line in the opener. We got to continue that. Now happens fast, against a different color jersey.
Anything else? Great, thanks guys.
All right, thank you guys.